Have you ever wondered how we got to be the smartest animal on the planet? How a small creature managed to conquer large predators and live all across the world? Well, it comes down to our brains being so special. Our brains are so dense, no, not that kind of dense, that we're able to think and do more than other animals. But the truth is, humans didn't just show up on Earth as the smartest animals. The world and the animals in it evolved and eventually gave birth to the species that we are today. The first question on this journey to becoming the smartest animal on Earth is, where did the brain come from? To answer this question, we have to start with the beginnings of life on Earth. You see, life on Earth started out sedentary. We had no ability to search for food, but instead relied on being in the right location where there was enough nutrients to sustain the organism. Organisms then developed something like neurons that allowed for some movement to seek out food. This gave them a huge leg up, and organisms kept evolving to be better at controlling and sensing movement so they could find more food. What came next for our smart organisms was something called nerve nets and later neural networks that allowed them to do more than just move. Nerve nets were very simple. Imagine a big fishing net, but instead it's neurons scattered throughout the organism's body, all connected. Neural networks are more specialized forms of these nerve nets. There can be varying levels of networks organized to allow for feedback and specialization. Something that would classify as a brain would have come about nearly 560 million years ago, which was basically a few neural networks bunched in a centralized location. At first, the brain was responsible for instinctual things. Think sleep, hunger, thirst, breathing, fear, and the subconscious things our brains do without having to think about. Then it became advantageous to be able to do higher order processes, which was the next step in brain evolution. Things like communication, teamwork, and building communities all became possible. See, our brain has become functionally a CPU, creating and executing tasks for our bodies to do, but it wasn't always like that. If you didn't know, a CPU is what powers your phone and the computer that is even playing this video. The basic building block of our brain is a neuron, which is able to send an electrical current to the next neuron, which does the same, and so on. Our brain has on average 86 million neurons, but earlier organisms used to have much simpler brains, or something that we wouldn't even classify as a brain. Think of it as, we have the newest, most expensive computer on the market, and these other organisms are running on old computers, some from even decades ago. The next step is why humans. What made humans the prime candidate? Humans are impressively able to adapt to many environments and thrive. Organisms have genetic mutations all the time, and they can be beneficial or detrimental for that species. When it is a good mutation, the population will slowly shift towards this mutation being common. One such example of how humans are able to live and adapt to their environment is that those with ancestors from high altitude have more red blood cells because oxygen is more sparse there. There was another mutation that helped our ancestors' brain, or neocortex, grow much bigger, allowing us to have greater cognition. Another thing that helped our brain mutate and evolve is what we ate. So you might be thinking, wait, does what I eat really affect how smart I am? And you'd be partially right. What you are eating affects what nutrients are available to your body, most important, early on in life. Missing the right nutrients or not having enough nutrients during critical periods of brain development can severely impact brain chemistry, behaviors, and even lifespan. The lack of iron, iodine, folic acid, zinc, and vitamins can have lifelong consequences. What we really want to know is, how did what we eat allow us to go from a slightly more complex primate to the premier mind of the world? The truth of the matter is that we don't know, or rather there can be multiple answers that are all correct. One such potential answer is carbohydrates. Everyone loves to have tortilla chips at a Mexican restaurant or endless breadsticks at Olive Garden, and maybe that's for a reason. But before we were able to industrialize and pump out commercially processed carbs, we had things like potatoes, corns, beans, and other starchy plants. The leader of the paper on this, Dr. Hardy, posits that carbohydrates were a crucial component of keeping up with the metabolic demand of our ancestors. The readily available glucose and starches were most important to energy-demanding tissues such as the brain. If you didn't know, the brain consumes most of the body's energy, so without the foods to support this energy demand, it wouldn't even be able to evolve. Another possibility is early human consumption of meat. We are omnivores, which means we are able to eat and process plants and meat. There are some vital nutrients that we're able to get from meat. Things like vitamin B3 and nicotinamide are vital to the development of our brain and are both readily available in meat. Another explanation that came out of a study relatively by chance is fruit being a stepping stone towards a bigger brain size. That study saw primates that consumed fruit had correspondingly larger brain size than those who primarily ate leaves and plants. Now, maybe it's all by splendid chance that Homo sapiens were given the ability to grow, but I bet you wouldn't have thought of a diet as an explanation to our species' dominance on the world.